Hey guys. This is a Naruto and Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple crossover. What if Naruto became the Night Fist? Betrayed by the people he vowed to protect, Naruto finds himself in a new world with new skills. Searching for a purpose and people who accept him, Naruto joins the infamous Ragnarok, thus leading to the birth of the Ninth Fist. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 1. Summary. Because he's considered too much of a liability to the village after Pain's invasion, the council decides to remove Naruto from Konoha. Naruto soon finds himself adrift in the ocean and learns of the actions of the village. Angered by their betrayal, he floats away before being found and transported to a new land, all the while gaining new skills. After arriving in Japan, he soon comes into contact with the fierce organization Ragnarok and becomes its newest member. This marks the birth of Fenrir, the Ninth Fist. The Hidden Leaf Village, which was considered the greatest of the 5 hidden villages, now lay in ruins. A massive crater more than 5 miles wide was now in place of virtually every building that once stood. One would think this was the work of some natural disaster or an invading army, but in fact it was the work of a single man and his quest for peace. Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki along with his 6 Paths of Pain, had launched an all-out assault on the village to capture Naruto, and as a result had reduced the village to a smoldering ruin. Never before had the village endured such destruction, and even though Pain had been defeated in the end, the damage had been done. It can't go on like this. That boy must be dealt with now more than ever, were the words spoken by the elderly Koharu to the other members of the village's council of elders. Though Pain had been successfully defeated, the village had paid a heavy toll both in terms of their military strength and in the shape of their village. As a result, the elders Koharu and Hamura, along with a few other influential persons, had gathered to discuss the village's future, which didn't look too bright for one particular ninja. While I cannot deny that the boy is directly responsible for this tragedy, we must not overlook the fact that he is held in high regard by many members of the shinobi population, including the Hokage. If we were to simply kill him right now, we would have the entire village at our throats. Hamura, the other elder who also didn't hold a high opinion of Naruto from the start, replied. Then what do you suggest? You've seen the lengths to which the Akatsuki are willing to go to simply capture him, and as a result our village is now nothing but a pile of ruined buildings. We must act now, before something else happens. Koharu replied with a sense of urgency in her voice. The two had been trying to find a solution to their strife but had yet to find a resolution that would remove Naruto from the village without invoking the fury of his allies. There may be a way to resolve this issue without doing more damage than what has already been done. An old and dry voice called out from the shadows. The form of an old man wrapped in bandages along the left side of his body and a cross-shaped scar on his chin appeared. Danzo Shimura, leader and founder of Root and like the elders one of the people who viewed Naruto as a liability rather than an asset. The elders looked at the bandaged Root ANBU commander with looks of skepticism. Although it was true that they trusted Danzo more than the Hokage, they also knew that his methods of dealing with such matters had yet to be truly effective, or by any means subtle. However, at this point they were in no position to be picky and were willing to take the risk. What exactly do you have in mind, Danzo? Hamura asked, still somewhat skeptic of the help this man might provide. The first thing he heard was the sound of waves and seagulls cawing. Hey, wake up you worthless flesh bag. Huh? What was that? Who's there? The Easter Bunny, of course. Who the hell do you think I am? Kyubi? What the hell do you want, and what's that weird sound I am hearing? Naruto slowly began to regain his senses as he slowly rose to his feet. However, he was surprised to find the land he was standing on to be shifting from side to side like a pendulum. Ordinarily the blonde ninja would have been able to keep his balance with no trouble, but he was not at his best at the moment, and promptly fell on his ass again. Ouch. Okay, what the hell is going here? Why is the ground rocking around? Why do I hear seagulls, and more importantly, why is everything so damn dark? Before he had a chance to answer his own questions, the little voice in his head decided to do it for him. Maybe the reason you can't see is because you are blindfolded, you blonde dumbass. The nine-tailed fox replied before sighing at the sheer stupidity of his current tenant for not even noticing that his eyes were covered. Okay, that answers one question, but why exactly am I blindfolded and why is the ground still moving? The still blinded and dazed Naruto asked, with a look of curiosity and slight confusion on his face. Of course, the fox was slowly getting irritated at the fact that his container had yet to attempt the simple method for answering his questions, which he was quick to voice. Just take the damn blindfold off, you dumbass. With a swift yank, the blindfold was removed and the darkness dissipated to reveal bright sunlight, blue skies, and the ocean to Naruto. Wait, the ocean? Naruto's eyes quickly adjusted to the light, and he was able to survey his surrounds properly only to find that he was not only looking at nothing but the ocean, but he was also in a small wooden boat in the middle of said ocean with no land visible at any angle for miles. At that brief moment, Naruto's mind temporarily shut down from the shocking realization that he was now in the middle of the ocean, on a boat with no land in sight and no idea how he got there, and more importantly, no idea how to get back. So once his brain kicked in again, he did the one thing he could in this situation, which was to freak the hell out. What in the hell is going on here? Why am I in the middle of the freaking ocean? Naruto screamed at the sea as he tried to remember what had happened in the hope of getting a better understanding of his current situation. However, no matter how hard he tried, nothing appeared in his mind. After talking with Pain and Conan, all he got was a haze. Huh, that's weird. I still can't remember much of anything. Maybe the fox knows something. So with that thought in his mind, Naruto quickly entered his mindscape and appeared in front of the Kyuubi's cage. However, he was surprised to see that it had changed since he had last appeared before it. The single set of bars that had been used to cage the Kyuubi now had a second set of horizontal bars fused with the previous set. Additionally, several heavy chains were also located in front of the cage, one connected to each corner, and ended at a large lock with the kanji for seal on it. From behind the now altered cage, the massive crimson eyes of the Nine Tails appeared, though something was off. The Nine Tails looked angry, but not his usual anger, but an anger which Naruto liked to call the do not fuck with my ramen kind of angry. Naruto, being the blunt person he was, asked a rather simple question that was on his mind. Yo Fox, what's got you so pissed off? And more importantly, what happened to the seal? I don't remember an extra set of bars or chains last time I came here. Now, normally when Naruto asked the fox to speak with him, it would usually be either some snide remark or a lot of screaming. However, this time around the fox, despite his facial expression, responded surprisingly calmly. It's a new seal, you moron. Of course, this just confused Naruto more than he already was and made him forget his original purpose. I know that the cage is a seal. I mean, why does the seal have chains and extra bars? His response was slightly louder than his previous remark and held a hint of anger behind it. However, the fox only sighed in response at first. You really are an idiot, you know? When I said it's a seal, I was referring to the bars and chains, not the cage. That got Naruto's attention. What do you mean? Now both interested and slightly concerned, Naruto's full attention was on the face of the demon behind the bars, waiting for an explanation. What I mean is that this cage, the bars and the chains are separate seals. The cage was placed by that bastard of a Hokage to seal me inside of you. The second set of bars and chains, however, are meant to seal up chakra. The fox finished that last sentence with a hint some anger in his voice, as if speaking those words was like some kind of insult. Naruto, however, was more focused on the last sentence than the fox's tone of voice. They sealed up chakra, so what? It just seals your chakra, right? One would have expected the fox to make a snide remark at his container's obviously stupid question normally, but he didn't say anything, which freaked Naruto out a little. The fox then looked at Naruto and spoke. No, it seals all chakra, not just mine. In other words, your chakra is sealed up too, and this seal can't be broken. In the moment those words were spoken, Naruto could almost feel his whole world crumble around him. His chakra was sealed. In other words, that meant his dream of becoming Hokage was now out of his reach forever, even if he found a way back home. Worse than that, it also meant that all his jutsu were now useless. No shadow clones, no Rasengan, hell not even his sexy no jutsu. The shock of this realization and the fact he was still weak caused Naruto to pass out, though he welcomed the darkness as a form of comfort, and let it consume him. Dreamscape. Naruto stood near Konan and watched as the blue-haired woman covered the bodies of her fallen comrades Yahiko and Nagato with her paper, intending to give them a proper burial. Once they were covered, the original Akatsuki member turned to Naruto with a sad but hopeful look in her eyes. Naruto, I still don't truly believe that you alone can bring peace to this world of ninja and war. However, Nagato was willing to put his faith in you, and if he was willing to give you a chance, then so will I. She then presented Naruto with a bouquet of paper flowers. Please put these at Master Jiraiya's grave for me, and also know that once I return to the Land of Rain you will have my full support. As she spoke those last words, a small smile appeared on her face, as did on Naruto's as he reached for the. Just as he was about to accept the flowers, a blinding light appeared, followed by a massive explosion, and then. End of dream/flashback. Real world, 1 day later. Naruto quickly awoke from his dream as his face was soaked with icy cold water that stung against his skin like needles. His sapphire blue eyes opened once more to the world, and he quickly saw that he was still on a boat, but strangely enough not the rowboat from before. This particular boat was rather large, reaching to almost 70 feet in length. He took note that he was currently at the front, which consisted of a small table, some chairs and a tarp, supported by 4 wooden pillars. In the middle of the boat was what he assumed to be the cabin, which stretched roughly 40 feet from the back of the boat to close to the front. A pair of small engines could be seen in the back, propelling the boat forward. Where the heck am I? Nice to see that you're still alive. Thought you died there for a moment, young man. A wise yet oddly upbeat voice rang out. Naruto quickly turned to the voice, and his eyes fell upon a man. He looked to be somewhere in his 60s, and yet he was surprisingly tall, easily standing a few inches above Naruto. His skin was a dark tan in color, and his white hair was done in some strange type of braids and placed in a ponytail. The man had a short white beard and mustache adorning his narrow face. A pair of teal eyes gazed at him as Naruto took in the appearance of this unknown man. The man's body was trained to a rather surprising level, as he had muscles all over him, not large and bulky ones like some random thug, but those of a trained fighter. He wore no shirt, only a pair of orange sweatpants with a small hole on one of the knees and yellow stripes going down the sides. Other than that, he wore no shoes or gloves of any kind. The only other distinguishing feature about the stranger was the black sun tattoo on his left arm near his shoulder. Naruto continued to stare at the strange man for a few moments, both trying to understand the situation as well as see whether this man was a threat or not. However, what Naruto didn't realize was that the same man was also observing the boy himself, but with different intentions. The kid's trying to see how I react, and wants to make sure that I am not gonna pull anything. Most people would say something first or say thank you, but this kid, it's like he is used to this sort of thing. Not only that, but from what I can tell from his physique, he has been trained in something, though what I don't know. Whatever the case, I would say things just got very interesting around here. The awkward silence lasted for roughly a minute before the strange man finally felt like something needed to be said. I take it that by the fact you have the energy to stare at me like that, you are feeling better now. Naruto quickly realized that he had in fact been staring rather blatantly at the man who had apparently saved him from being stuck in the ocean. So naturally he quickly averted his eyes before putting his hand behind his head and faced the man. Sorry, got lost in thought there. He quickly put his hand back down and sat down while the stranger spoke up again. It's alright, though I have to admit that you are quite a strange one. It isn't every day that you find a boy and boat in the middle of the ocean. The man lightly laughed as he spoke, trying to lighten the somewhat tense atmosphere before reaching out to Naruto with his hand. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. The name's Soul Silva, pleasure to meet you. He awaited for Naruto's response with a smile on his face. Naruto was hesitant to accept Soul's hand because at the moment he still wasn't very trusting of anyone. However, he saw the look on his face and realized that it contained no malice or ill intent. And even though he no longer had access to any chakra, he couldn't sense any evil intentions from this man. So Naruto slowly responded. Naruto Uzumaki, and it's a pleasure to meet you too. He slowly shook the man's hand and could tell he was strong just from his firm grip alone. After releasing each other's respective hands, Soul brought a new topic to their attention. So Naruto, I am curious, what's a kid like you doing in a boat in the middle of the ocean with no food, water, or well, anything but the clothes on your back? As soon as those words left his mouth, Soul noticed how Naruto's eyes slowly took on a depressed look, his small smile becoming a frown, and even the aura he was emitting was depressive. By the look of this kid's demeanor, it must have been something serious for him to go from happy to depressed that quickly. Even though the topic seemed to depress his new companion, Soul awaited his response. Naruto had now been reminded of what he believed to be the truth, namely that his friends and village had betrayed him and left him for dead. This thought made him feel like someone had placed a metal spike on his heart and forced it in with a hammer. It's alright, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to, I won't pry. Naruto looked up at the strange man whose face held a kind smile that brought Naruto's spirits up a bit. Thanks. Soul's smile quickly turned into a large grin. It's nothing. I am not the kind of guy who pries into people's private lives. If you don't want to say anything, that's fine. Soul's smile then slowly disappeared as he turned to Naruto. So on to a new subject, what are you planning to do now, Naruto? Are you going to try and find a way back to from where you came? Naruto paused for a moment at the thought about the question, but then remembered that his chakra had been sealed, and he had been left for dead. There was no point in returning. Nope, I have nothing waiting for me back there, so I guess I will just have to start over wherever I end up. Soul nodded his head at the blonde ninja's response. That's good, you shouldn't let yourself get discouraged and try to move on. As for starting over, I am currently on course for the country of Japan. Maybe you can find your place there. Naruto was tempted to ask Soul where exactly Japan was since he had never heard of it before, but at this point it didn't really matter. As long as he could move forward, he didn't care. So how long do you think it will take us to get to Japan? Soul broke out into a grin before replying. Not too long, only about 6 months. Naruto's eyes popped out of his sockets when he heard that, though mostly all he heard was the part about 6 months. 6 months? I'm gonna be stuck on this boat for 6 months. What the heck I am supposed to do? As he said these words, the grin on Soul's face turned into a large smile. Well, I might have a suggestion for you. Naruto's neck turned so fast to his new friend that you could hear a few joints snap in and out of place. He looked at Soul with curiosity at what he was going to suggest. Soul quickly got up and walked towards the large cabin of the ship before opening the massive double doors. Naruto glanced inside and was shocked at what he saw. The walls were painted orange and lights were hanging from the ceiling, revealing various pictures on the walls that displayed various individuals performing a myriad of combat moves. In one corner of the room were several dumbbells and what appeared to be leg and arm weights. In another part of the room were various training posts and training dummies. Other pieces of equipment of all types could be found lying around in the massive room. The floor itself was padded and looked like one big training mat with a ring-like circle in the middle. Soul looked at Naruto with glee in his expression before asking the blonde boy. Tell me something, Naruto. Do you have any interest in practicing martial arts? Chapter 2. Time skip, 6 months later. The boat rocked back and forth in a slow but calming motion as it approached the shore of the island of Japan. At the front of the boat sat Naruto, still clad in the clothes he worn when he first met Soul, though they were even more ragged and torn now from his new master's training. As he looked towards the ever-growing land ahead, Naruto started to think back and reflect on what had happened to him over the last 6 months. Flashback. Naruto stared at his new friend Soul with a look of shock and curiosity at the somewhat strange proposal he had dropped on him out of nowhere. After learning that he would be trapped on Soul's boat for 6 months before reaching shore, Naruto, acting like his old self, quickly started to shout and scream in comedic annoyance. Soul then offered him something to pass the time with, which was in a few short words, "Do you have any interest in practicing martial arts?" Naruto stared at the unusual man before him who still had that same massive grin on his face, awaiting Naruto's response. Soul, what exactly do you mean?" Naruto asked. Soul's grin dropped for a moment at the question but quickly shifted back to a small smile. He crossed his arms over his chest and looked straight at Naruto. Can't say I am surprised by your response. If I were in your position, I would probably ask the same thing. Naruto watched Soul as he continued to speak, curious to find the answer behind his strange question. Listen, Naruto. I am a martial arts master, and one thing a master has to do is pass his skills on to a disciple to carry on his legacy. Unfortunately, I have as of yet been unable to find anyone who I felt was worthy of being my pupil. That was till I found you, that is. At the end of the sentence his grin returned in full, like a kid who just found a toy he had lost. Wait, I don't get it. I mean, why me? You hardly know anything about me and I know next to nothing about you or even what you would teach me. How can you be so sure that I would even make a good pupil? Naruto spoke with more curiosity than annoyance, as he was slightly interested with what this man had to say. Soul continued to smile as he looked at Naruto. Kid, I may not know you personally, but when you reach be my age and see the stuff I have seen, you tend to look past appearances. All I know is that I see something special in you that I have been searching for a long time. So what do you say? Do you want to be my pupil? Naruto stood there unmoving for a while, mentally weighing his options. However, one part of his mind decided to tip the scales, so to speak. Say yes. A loud yet well-known voice echoed in the back of Naruto's mind. Fox, what do you want now and what do you mean with say yes? Listen here, you brat, I am trying to help you. In case you weren't paying attention, you have no chakra left, which means no jutsu either. That leaves you with only your hand-to-hand combat skills. That's of course if you consider that idiotic flailing around you usually do as martial arts. Hey, I have gotten by just fine with my... But this was where the fox cut him off. Don't be an idiot. You have never once defeated a capable opponent with your basic fighting skills. No, you either overwhelmed them with your shadow clones and blasted them away with your Rasengan or got your ass handed to you. Face it, your whole joke of a fighting style was centered around your chakra, and now that it's gone you need to either learn some useful fighting skills or rely on what you have and get you F-sharp and king-ass kicked. Naruto was prepared to argue back, but looking back he realized that what the fox was saying was dead on right. He couldn't remember a single fight he had been in where he hadn't relied on his shadow clones or the Rasengan to bail him out of trouble. Plus he never learned a real fighting style, mainly because his teacher's trainings had all been centered on chakra. Now that it was gone he had nothing to work with. Trust me, kid, this is the right thing to do, and I can tell by looking at this guy that he will teach you better than any of those other idiots before. Needless to say, that was all Naruto needed to hear. The former ninja came out of his mindscape and looked Soul, who had a slightly suspicious smirk on his face like he had expected his reaction, dead in the eye. However, he didn't dwell on that and simply looked at the martial arts master. Alright, Soul, I will become your disciple, teach me and I will learn. Then Naruto did something that anyone who knew him before would be shocked to hear about. He bowed in respect for his new master. Needless to say, Soul was doing a happy dance on the inside and looked at Naruto with another huge grin. Alright Naruto, let's get started then. Flashback end. From that moment on, Soul practically threw Naruto into training, which Naruto found to be much harder without his chakra. Yet he quickly got accustomed to his new limitations and stayed focused on everything his new master taught him. But for Naruto, the most enjoyable fact about the training itself was that Soul actively helped him in his training and pointed out any flaws he might have made, unlike all his previous masters who had simply shown him the technique he was supposed to learn and had left him to his own devices afterwards. As a result, Naruto had grown to like Soul very much, and upon nearing Japan's shores it made him truly sad to leave his master behind, despite knowing that this journey was one he would have to do by himself. Naruto was so deep in thought that he didn't notice his master slip behind him until Soul tried to sweep his legs. However, with amazing agility Naruto jumped up to avoid the sweep before flipping back in the air, landing on one hand before he swung his left leg and unleashed a powerful side kick, only for Soul to block it with his own leg. The force of the two limbs colliding created a small shock wave that blew the air away from around them. Naruto slightly glared at Soul before he pushed himself back to a standing position. What the hell was that for, sensei? Naruto glared at his master with a furious look as Soul stood there with the same grin he always carried. Hee, just making sure you don't let your guard down, plus it's a fun way to mess with you when you are thinking too much. Soul then laughed lightly at his own somewhat misguided logic, but still, it was enough to bring a smile back to Naruto's face. Sneak attacks had been a part of Naruto's training and they happened anytime and anywhere. Regardless of whether it was the dinner table, when he was sleeping, or even when he was going to the bathroom once. At first it pissed him off, however, it did manage to keep his mind off of his old life and the betrayal, which still stung a little when he thought of it. However, Soul had been right that the training would get his mind off of it. Well, Naruto, we are about to arrive at port, so you better pack what things you have and get ready. Naruto nodded and quickly went to his room below deck. It was about the same size as his old apartment, and didn't have much stuff in it. As such, packing didn't take too long and Naruto was back on deck in flash. Once they hit port, Soul quickly dropped the anchor and tied the boat to the dock. Once it was secured, he walked over to Naruto to give him some last words of advice. Well, Naruto, this is it now, you have a chance to start a new life here and hopefully find a place where you belong. Soul spoke with a more serious tone as he stared at his blonde-haired disciple. However, since you don't have next to anything or money, I figured I would start you off, so here. He practically shoved a small but very fat sack in Naruto's arms. That should be enough to get you by and set up shop for yourself, as long as you don't spend it all in one place. Also remember to keep training and improve, so that the next time we see each other I can give you some serious training. Before Naruto even had a chance to reply, his master had already shoved him off the boat. As the blonde boy was still busy getting to the surface again, Soul had already redrawn the anchor and set off. After resurfacing, the former ninja watched the boat he had come to see as a sort of second home shrink in the distance of the horizon. However, while it was leaving, Naruto heard the familiar musical beat of steel drums being played in a rhythmic fashion. Naruto smiled at his master's attempt at a final goodbye before getting out of the water and walking from the ocean, towards the city that would become his new home. Scene change, unnamed city. Night had fallen quickly as the young demon carrier walked through the streets, still looking for a place to stay at. After Soul had left, Naruto had immediately headed into the city to find a place to sleep for the night. However, before he had a chance to do so, the fox told him to buy new clothes before considering finding a place to sleep. When Naruto asked why, the fox, rather than replying, simply told him to look at the people around him. When he did that, he saw they were staring at him, some were even laughing. Not wanting to draw attention to himself, Naruto quickly ran to the nearest clothing store to change his look. Gone was his old orange and black jumpsuit and pants, as Naruto decided to go with something different for a change. Now Naruto wore a pair of black sweatpants, black and red sneakers, a black hooded jacket with red lines on the sleeves with the hood kept up, and a black t-shirt, which surprisingly had the image of blue and gray wolf head with red eyes on the front. For some odd reason, he felt like something about the image sort of called out to him in a way, but he didn't think too much of it. By the time he was done, it was already dark outside, and Naruto was now stuck walking outside, hoping to find somewhere to find shelter for the night. Unfortunately, that search was about to be delayed. "Hey buddy, you got a minute?" Naruto turned his eyes to a group of 5 teens dressed in various outfits that made them look like your run-of-the-mill thugs. The one whom he assumed had called to him was roughly 5 feet 6 inches and wore a white jacket, orange shirt, black pants, and shoes. He had short brown hair and 3 rings pierced through his left eyebrow and 1 in his lip. He approached Naruto with a sinister look on his face, obviously showing that he and his buddies were looking for trouble. Naruto, who was being used to facing demented psychos, wasn't frightened by a group of thugs. "Yo, what do you want?" Naruto responded calmly but with a slight demanding tone underneath, indicating that he didn't want to deal with this. Unfortunately for the guy and his buddies, they didn't take the hint. "Well, here's the thing. See, we run things in this neighborhood and require everyone to pay a toll when they come around here. So seeing as how we ain't seen you around this place, we assume you're new, so here's the deal. You pay or..." The guy quickly pulled out a black switchblade knife and smirked. "We mess you up." Before the guy even knew what hit him, he was up in the air after feeling something smash up into his jaw. He didn't even have a chance to regain his senses before he felt another force collide with his chest, knocking what little wind was left in him out before crashing into a nearby trash can. The other thugs blinked as their jaws dropped in shock at the sight of their boss flying. "What the hell just happened?" one of the thugs voiced. "Yeah, 1 second the boss is gearing to slash the guy, the next he's..." The rest of his sentence never left his mouth as a foot swiftly collided with the left side of his face. A moment later the same foot crashed into the other 4 at high speed, sending them in various directions which were always interrupted by both walls and trash cans. The boss managed to regain his senses enough to look up and see his 4 buddies flying. However, what really surprised him was seeing his intended victim perform some kind of break dance move where he spun around, his legs spread out, and his body balanced on one arm. "Damn it, I don't know what's going on, but no one makes a fool out of me." The thug reached into his jacket and quickly pulled out a much larger knife with a 6-inch blade and black handle. He glared at Naruto, who had his back to the thug. "Hope you're ready to die, bastard." He quickly charged at Naruto, his knife raised high and ready to end his life. The instant he had said those words, the blonde stranger spun around so fast that he could barely be seen. As he turned, he spun his right leg and delivered a fast roundhouse kick that knocked the blade of the knife clean off and into a nearby wall. The nameless thug just stood there in shock, his eyes slowly turning to the now empty handle that had once been his knife. He then looked into the dark hood of the stranger, only for his eyes to meet a pair of cold blue eyes. The thug could feel those eyes almost piercing his very soul. He was that frightened by them. "Listen, pal, I am only gonna say this once, so listen up," the hooded teen in a firm and cold tone that sent chills down his enemy's spine. "You didn't see me here, none of this ever happened, and you won't breathe a word of this little encounter to anyone, got it?" The last words were spoken with an animalistic snarl that made the question sound more like a statement. The thug could only stand and stare. He was past frightened and subconsciously noticing that he pissed his pants less than 2 seconds after looking the guy in the eyes. Using what little of his brain was still functioning, he slowly nodded in response before falling on his back unconsciously. Naruto simply shook his hooded head in slight disappointment at his pathetic attacker before taking note of his somewhat odd reaction. "Hey Fox, what's going on here?" "What do you mean?" "Well, right after I broke that guy's knife I felt something. Like I was angry, but more so than usual. I felt a little like when I used your chakra, mind explaining?" I wondered when you would notice that." "Listen kid, as you know that seal those idiots used on you seals away both your chakra and mind permanently, right?" "Yeah, so what?" Naruto started to get a little annoyed at his companion's vagueness. "Be patient, I am getting there. Anyway, as you know, chakra is a combination of a person's physical energy and spiritual energy. Physical energy is produced by your body, namely it's the energy you use to move around. Your spiritual energy, on the other hand, comes from your emotions and spiritual being. My chakra is mostly composed of elements like rage and hatred. However, now that it can't escape as energy, where do you think all that anger goes?" "What are you getting at, Fox?" "Look, here's the short version. My chakra is made up of anger and hatred and comes in great amounts, but is now permanently sealed in both your body and spirit. In doing so, this has caused some of those emotions to be infused into your spirit, but the seal makes it so that it doesn't flood into you, since it would turn you into a berserker. Only when you are in states of extreme anger it will emerge and make you stronger and faster as well as more vicious. Think of it like a shot of adrenaline on steroids. So in other words, if I get mad enough I get some kind of energy boost or something? That's the general idea, yeah? While I would like to talk more about this, right now I am too tired to deal with it. I guess I might as well go find a park with a tree for me to sleep in. Man, what a lousy way to start off here." Naruto sighed at his misfortune, utterly ignoring the fact he had just used his newfound martial arts skills to demolish a group of low-class thugs. However, as he walked away he missed a pair of glowing red eyes looking at him through the darkness. The eyes were revealed to be a pair of military-style night vision goggles, worn by a girl with short brown hair, though it was hard to see any of it under her army green ski hat. She appeared to be 17 or 18 years old and wore a yellow tank top, green fingerless gloves, army camo pants and combat boot. In her hand she held a portable video camera, which she had used to record the entire fight. On her face one could see a large and somewhat creepy smile as she lightly chuckled to herself. Just wait till Loki sees this. Unknown location. Sol lightly hummed to himself as his boat continued to carry him across the open sea. I wonder how Naruto will do while he is in Japan. As he kept wondering, he flipped a small golden coin-like item with his left hand. While he stared towards the setting sun, he easily caught coin again. Well, I guess we will just have to wait and see. Though if he is the kind of person I think he is, then not only will he make it there, but he is going to raise some serious hell too. His boat soon landed on another stretch of land, which at the tip held a massive skyscraper with an unknown symbol on the front. Silva slowly walked down the dock with his coin in hand. In mere seconds 10 hooded individuals appeared before him. Each one wore a hooded black robe covering their whole bodies from view. The only real differences between them, besides their heights, were the 9 different kanji symbols on each robe. They read Shadow, Flow, Ice, King, Steel, Sky, Water, Flame, Void and Moon respectively. Sol chuckled lightly at the group of strange individuals as each of them raised their hands, presenting a gold coin, each carrying the same symbol each individual had on their robes. Sol responded by raising his own coin. Only the kanji for sun was engraved on his. The one member with the symbol for shadow walked forward. So it finally happened. Did you really find yourself an apprentice? Sol quickly gained a serious look on his face as he responded. Would I be here otherwise? No, I suppose not, though it certainly took you long enough. Despite the intense atmosphere, the hooded shadow wielder laughed lightly. Sol also chuckled as he looked over the other 8 masked individuals before returning his gaze to the one in front. Sorry about that, it took longer than I thought. However, it was worth it cause I believe I found someone who has the potential to become a better master than even me one day. If he is anything like you, Sol, then it's distinct possibility. However, we can discuss this later. After all, we are finally whole once more. It's good to have you back, Capoeira Master, Silva the Dancing Sun God. Chapter 3. Abandoned Warehouse. At first glance one would think that no one in their right mind would even consider entering this old warehouse, due to its rotten walls, rusted ceiling and rat infestation. However, there was surprisingly enough a light coming from the second floor of the warehouse. Upon closer inspection, a computer screen situated on a desk could be identified as the source of the glow. Sitting at the desk was a rather unusual-looking individual. He was roughly 6 feet tall, with light blue hair, garbed in black pants and shoes along with a blue undershirt, a tan trench coat, black gloves and a rather strange pair of goggles with some sort of netting over the eyes. To most people he would just look like some kind of weird teenager that people generally tend to ignore. However, anyone with even a little knowledge of the city knew that this man was the fourth fist of the infamous gang Ragnarok, also known as Loki. Famous for both his fighting skills and his devious attitude, he had made a habit of stirring up trouble in the city. But tonight his attention was drawn to an interesting video, which had been presented to him by one of his agents. If one had been able to look through his goggles, they would have seen his eyes focusing solely on the mysterious hooded figure that soundly demolished the small band of thugs that had attacked him. With each second that passed, the grin on Loki's face continued to grow until it couldn't stretch any further. Looks like I just hit the jackpot. He lightly chuckled to himself as he paused the movie at a scene that allowed him to get a good view of the stranger's face, which was illuminated by the moonlight. It revealed a young boy with blonde hair, blue eyes and whisker-like marks on his cheeks. Time to go recruit some new blood. Scene changed. Park. Naruto was, needless to say, having a rather crappy morning, which was partially attributed to the fact that he had been forced to sleep in a tree at the local park. Mental note to myself: never sleep in a tree again. Especially one full of crazy squirrels and an insane chipmunk. He thought. It was true, not long after being bombarded with acorns by a rather unusual band of squirrels, Naruto had been attacked by some rabid chipmunk. It was a lousy way to start the day. Naruto was currently walking down the sidewalk of some nameless pathway away from the park as he again searched for a place to stay. There has to be some place where I can sleep around here. I'm not planning to stay in a tree again. As these thoughts went through his mind, The blonde ninja's attention was quickly diverted as he felt a hand grab his shoulder. "Alright, kid, mind telling me what exactly you're doing?" a voice laden with authority asked. Naruto turned around only to find a man who appeared to be roughly in his 30s, wearing a black uniform with red and white strips, black pants and shoes, white gloves and a white hat with a black tip. He looked at Naruto with a stern face. "Well, you gonna answer me, kid? What exactly are you doing?" Naruto was curious. Normally he just would have run for it, but he figured that it wouldn't accomplish anything in this situation. What he currently was wondering about was who this man was and what exactly he thought Naruto was doing wrong. Could you maybe tell me what exactly the problem is? 'Cause I really don't know what I'm doing wrong." The blonde ninja spoke slowly but relatively calmly so he wouldn't accidentally start an incident. The man quickly gained a confused look on his face but quickly returned it to a stern expression. "Kid, how old are you exactly?" 16. "That's what I figured. And that leaves the question why exactly you aren't in school when it's clearly a school day." When the policeman mentioned the word school, Naruto quickly gained a horrified expression at the very idea. "School? You have to be kidding me. I thought I was done with that crap when I graduated from the academy 3 years ago. Now this guy is telling me I have to go back?" Naruto continued to panic at the thought of being forced into a classroom again. The officer, who was getting slightly annoyed with the teen's lack of response, swiftly changed his grip from Naruto's shoulder to his wrist and began to drag him along. "Alright, kid, you and me are going down to the station for a little chat." He quickly dragged the young blonde down the road. "Ah, there you are. I have been looking all over for you," another voice said to the two. The voice got the officer's attention and snapped Naruto out of his daze. The two turned their attention to the source of voice, only to find another teen about the same age as Naruto. He was roughly 6 feet in height, with light blue hair and brown eyes. The stranger was clad in a simple white collared shirt, blue pants, and brown shoes. The stranger quickly ran up to the pair and with a slight smile faced the two individuals before turning his attention to Naruto. "Where have you been, man? I have been looking all over for you. What did I tell you about trying to skip school?" Naruto quickly gained a confused expression on his face since he had never met this boy before and certainly never talked to him. However, the stranger changed his facial expression for a moment to one that said play along for now before returning it to the expression of the concerned friend. Not wanting to deal with the cop, Naruto figured it was his best option. "Sorry about that, I went out for a bit and got lost." Naruto spoke with a convincing tone. The officer's eyes drifted from the stranger to the boy he had been interrogating and back again. "Do you know this kid?" The blue-haired boy looked at the officer with the same smile on his face. "Yes, we go to the same high school, but my friend here has a habit of skipping class. Sorry about that." He then bowed in apology. The officer looked at the two briefly before slowly letting go of Naruto's wrist. "Alright, I guess as long as you get your buddy to class again it's alright. Just make sure he stays there this time." The blue-haired teen quickly responded. "Don't worry, he won't leave my sight again, I guarantee it." He especially emphasized the last line, but only Naruto was able to pick up on it. Satisfied, the officer turned around and walked away, leaving the two teens to their own business. Naruto breathed a slight sigh of relief at having avoided the risk of returning to school, though he quickly turned his attention to the stranger. "While I appreciate the help, I know that you want something from me, so do me a favor and drop that fake smile and get on with it." The teen's smile didn't exactly drop but rather turned into a sinister grin as he looked at Naruto, eager to answer him. "Well, aren't you straight to the point? You are an interesting guy, that's for sure." He chuckled in a manner that reminded Naruto of a certain snake ninja from not too long ago. "Alright, you mind explaining what you want from me, 'cause I have better things to do with my time." Naruto spoke with a slightly demanding tone. However, it didn't deter the stranger one bit. If anything, it made him laugh even more and his grin stretch even further. "Oh man, you are a riot. This is definitely going to be fun." He quickly calmed his laughter down but still kept his grin as he faced the blonde ninja. "Oh, with all this talking I forgot to introduce myself. Sorry about that." With that he quickly grabbed his shirt and with a flick of the wrist was now somehow garbed in a tan trench coat, blue shirt, black shoes, gloves and pants, and a pair of strange goggles that covered his eyes. The name is Loki, fourth fist of Ragnarok. He raised his glove to reveal the Roman number for 4, which was engraved in some sort of golden metal ring on the top of his glove. Naruto looked at him with slight interest and curiosity. Ragnar, what now? Ragnarok, kid. Naruto, who wanted to get to the point quickly, asked, Okay, what exactly is Ragnarok and what do you want with me? Loki once again grinned even deeper as he continued to look at the blonde ninja. What Ragnarok is exactly isn't all that important. In simple terms, we are a gang, and what I want from you is for you to join us. That got Naruto's attention. When Naruto had come to Japan, he had planned to start up his new life here. However, what he had never even considered was joining up with a new group of people. Granted, it was an interesting offer, and Naruto could tell by looking at Loki that he wasn't the kind of person to take no for an answer. Naruto stared at Loki for a moment. Okay, let's say for a moment I am interested in joining. What I want to know is why exactly you want me. I mean, I just got here yesterday. His response caused Loki to chuckle again, and he then reached into his trench coat. Naruto naturally tensed up when he thought that Loki was going to pull a weapon on him, but he quickly calmed down once he saw that it was just a computer, although a far more advanced one than he knew from his homeland. Loki quickly opened up the miniature device to reveal a video recording of Naruto's encounter with the gang from the previous night. As the video played, Loki continued to laugh. Have to say, this was a very interesting video I received. Bet you didn't know those thugs you knocked out were a part of one of the more dangerous gangs in the city. Even the cops around here are afraid to deal with them, yet you faced them down without breaking a sweat. Naruto looked at him blankly. Your point? Listen, kid, Ragnarok is on its way to be the most powerful gang in this city, and it's mainly composed of top-notch fighters. However, recently we have been suffering some serious trouble thanks to a few annoyances, but with your help things will pick up for us again in no time. Loki continued to look at Naruto. Although he wasn't showing it, he was slightly nervous while waiting for Naruto's answer. Damn it, this kid better say yes. With him on our side, not only will that Shitpaku alliance fall, but he will be perfect for taking down Odin. Naruto paused and thought about the offer. While he wasn't crazy about the idea of being in a gang, it would present him some form of purpose and possibly a place to sleep at. Figuring that he had nothing to lose, he looked at Loki. Alright, I am interested, though I think I might need to meet the rest of this gang first. With his response, Loki's grin became so wide that it was a miracle his skin didn't rip. Excellent. Scene and time change, undisclosed location, 9 p.m. In a somewhat large but obviously abandoned room, 6 different shadowed figures could be seen in the darkness. Someone mind explaining me why we were told to gather here? A gruff voice spoke out in curiosity. The response the one asking got was rather unusual, and some would say flamboyant. La 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 la, I was told it was something really important and… Would you shut up already? A new voice stopped the first 2 by calmly speaking up. Both of you calm yourselves, now is not the time to be acting like a pair of children. Another voice spoke up. It was accompanied by the sound of a gum popping. Still, you have to wonder what exactly is going on. I don't remember us having anything important to talk about. I believe that I can answer your question. The 6 turned their attention to the figure that had just opened the door, allowing the moonlight to engulf the room and reveal the 6. The first one of the 6 was a young girl with short red hair and green eyes. She was clad in a red t-shirt with the word Valkyrie stitched across the top, a pair of jeans with the right leg torn off up to the thigh, a pair of brown boots and a green beret on the top of her head. The second one was by far the largest of the 6 as he stood to almost 7 feet, with short brown hair and eyes. His clothing was a simple gray GI top and pants, though with the sleeves obviously ripped off, and a pair of sandals. At first glance one would have thought him obese, but upon closer inspection all of his girth was actually pure muscle. The third was the most unusually dressed of the group as his face was concealed by a hooded trench coat with a pentagram stitched on it. Beneath it he wore a skin-tight muscle shirt, black jeans, a brown belt, and leather boots similar to the girls'. The fourth was the one who had previously talked so flamboyantly. He was a teenage boy with surprisingly long white hair and light blue eyes. His outfit consisted of a dark maroon-colored long-sleeved jacket, army green pants, brown boots, and a maroon-colored hat with a white feather attached to the left side. The fifth individual was another young woman, though differing greatly in her appearance compared to the other one. She wore a light blue leotard top with dark blue pants, and an orange short-sleeved vest. She was tanned. Her hair was short and dark brown while her eyes were dark blue. A small scar was visible on her right cheek, just below her eyes. Her top stretched against her body, revealing a surprisingly muscular frame. The last of the six was a massive man with muscles on every part of his body. His hair was dark blonde and his eyes were also blue in color. A red sleeveless vest along with a skin-tight black muscle shirt and dark black pants were his choice of dress. On his face was a blank, vacant look as he kept chewing his gum. The six turned their attention to the seventh individual, the one who had just entered the warehouse. Despite the company and location, he was surprisingly well dressed with his white suit and pants as well as a yellow tie around his neck. His face was narrow and framed with short purple hair. His light blue eyes were covered by a pair of thin glasses. He stared at the six as the hooded individual spoke up. "All right, Odin, we're here. Now, do you mind explaining what you want? I have better things to do if this isn't important." His tone was filled with arrogance and annoyance, a feeling that was currently shared by some of the others while the largest part was simply uninterested. The now called Odin looked back at his comrade with a small frown that held no hostility, as he fixed his glasses with his left hand. "Actually, Hermit, I myself don't know much about what's going on. I only know that Loki said he had something he wanted to share with us." The response caused looks of surprise to sprout on the faces of each member at the thought of their own leader being in the dark. However, they also reminded themselves that Loki had a habit of keeping secrets. "So, what does that laughing idiot want now? 'Cause if this is another one of his pranks, he is so dead." The short redhead spoke with signs of rising anger in her voice. "Who's to say perhaps thias something important, and ni iwi?" The white-haired boy sung rather than spoke, slightly agitating the ones around him. The girl with short brown hair looked at the two with a calm expression. "I guess we will have to wait and see. Who knows, maybe it's something important this time." As she spoke those words, a familiar laugh could be heard echoing throughout the room. "Oh, it is important, all right, Freya, I assure you." The voice of Loki could be heard from all sides of the room. Some of the group tried to search for the source while Odin stayed still in his position, his eyes shifting slightly to the right where the open door was. "Loki, enough of your games. Come out already, would you?" Odin sighed. The response was quick. "Of course, no problem, Odin." Loki quickly walked into the warehouse with the same ever-present and creepy grin he always carried. However, the seven noticed that Loki seemed even more excited and cocky than usual. "Miss me?" he mockingly asked. The seven looked at him with mild annoyance at his attempt at humor. "Not that we aren't happy to see you, Loki, but would you mind explaining why you called us all here?" Odin asked. Loki's grin became even larger, and his chuckling grew as well. "Oh, you're gonna love this, everyone. See, I found us a new recruit, and believe me, this guy has some serious skill." He then turned his attention to the outside of the building. "All right, you can come in now." The sound of footsteps on gravel could be heard on the outside as the seven waited in anticipation, each with their own thoughts. "A new recruit, huh? Probably some macho meathead who can barely fight, more dead weight," were the thoughts that entered Valkyrie's head. "Been a while since we had any new members. I wonder if he'll be interested in helping me practice my fighting style. A new member, great, another worthless fool who can hack it and will probably end up dead. I wonder what kind of melodii he thyro hawaii. This could be interesting," Freya thought. Bubblegum chewing sounds, yes, Berserker even thinks about chewing gum, unless he is fighting, that is pretty much all he does. What could Loki be scheming? Odin thought. The stranger finally came into view. He was roughly 6 feet tall and clad in a black hooded jacket with blue lines running down the sleeves. A pair of black and dark blue sweatpants covered his lower body. Beneath his jacket was a black t-shirt with a gray wolf head imprinted on it. Strangely enough, his hood concealed his hair like Hermit's hood did, while a black cloth mask covered his mouth. The only part visible of him were his blue eyes. The stranger looked at the group before turning to Loki. So, these are your associates, Loki? Yes, my friend, I would like you to meet the other 7 of the 8 deadly fists of Ragnarok. The girl with the red hair is the 8th fist, Valkyrie. The big guy is the 7th fist, Thor. The hooded one is the 6th fist, Hermit. The weirdo with the hat is the 5th fist, Siegfried. The brown-haired girl is the 3rd fist, Freya. Gumboy over there is the 2nd fist, Berserker. And then we have the last one, the one with the glasses. This the 1st fist and leader, Odin. The 7 didn't react much to the introduction apart from their eyes looking scanning this strange new individual. Loki, however, ignored the others and continued his little speech. As for introductions, my friends, this is Naruto, our newest recruit. Loki pointed to Naruto, though one could tell from his tone he had more to say. Though personally, I think he's fist material. The instant the sentence was uttered, every one of the fist's eyes rose in shock at the statement, although Valkyrie was far more vocal with her thoughts. Bullshit, you think this guy can be a fist? That's total crap. It took me 2 years to become a fist, and you want this guy to become one the moment he joins? She screamed in fury, her rage clearly evident in her voice. Her thoughts were not alone as Odin too questioned Loki. Though I don't agree with Valkyrie's choice of words, I have to agree. Loki, you know how things work here, we can't just make a new member a fist. However, the words he spoke were different from those in his mind. Those eyes, they are the eyes of a combat veteran. Whoever this guy is, he is definitely not your run-of-the-mill thug. Despite their obvious protests and looks of discontent, Loki's grin didn't falter. If anything, it grew even bigger. I had a feeling you would say that, so I prepared a little demonstration. He then clapped his hands together 4 times, and in a matter of seconds 7 identical individuals appeared. My shadows here will all fight Naruto, 7-on-1 to show you how good he really is. The 7 fists looked slightly interested at the idea, both for seeing the individual's skills and even more at the prospect of Loki's lookalikes getting pummeled. Naruto slowly moved to the center of the room with the 7 Lokis surrounding him on each side. Each of them pulled out a stun baton with electricity crackling around them. Naruto, however, simply reached into his pocket and, strangely enough, pulled out an iPod and earphones. The group looked on in curiosity as he placed the earphones into his ears before selecting a song. One of Loki's shadows took the opportunity and charged forward, reeling his left arm back to strike. Before he could even attack, Naruto spun around and unleashed a powerful circular kick, nailing his enemy in the jaw and sending him flying. As the clone fell, a second Loki clone appeared in front of him before swinging his baton down vertically. With incredible agility, Naruto leapt backwards, landed onto his hands and reeled both his legs back, avoiding the strike, before shooting both legs forward, crashing them into the shadow's face. Before the second shadow fell, Naruto pushed himself up with one hand, flipped himself over and unleashed a powerful mule kick to the Loki shadow that was behind him. As the 2 dropped unconscious, 3 more attempted to attack Naruto from 3 sides simultaneously. Once they were close enough, Naruto dropped his other hand down and spread his legs out in a handstand split and started to spin with unimaginable speed. The 3 shadows didn't stand a chance to react as each had the left sides of their faces smashed in by no less than 20 high-speed kicks. The last shadow charged forward, determined to stab Naruto with his baton. However, just as he was about to reach him, Naruto pushed off high into the air with both arms and flipped himself up and turned, unleashing a powerful side kick to the shadow's jaw, sending him flying before landing on his feet again. Needless to say, all the fists, even Loki, stood in awe of the damage done. Loki, however, started to shake and chuckle like a kid at Christmas as he looked at Naruto. This kid is even better than I could have hoped for. However, some of the fists tried to keep their composure while Valkyrie just looked unimpressed. Big deal, so he beat a few of Loki's goons. Any one of us could have done that easily. Freya, however, still looked at the battlefield before turning to Valkyrie. Valkyrie, you may want to take another look before you start passing judgment. Odin and Hermit also had their eyes drawn to the stranger with looks of surprise and awe. Valkyrie, still angered, looked again and still couldn't see what about it was such a big deal. However, after a few seconds her eyes widened in shock and realization. No way. Freya nodded at her comrade's realization. He never moved from his starting spot. Despite all those attacks and movements, he is still standing at the same spot as when he began. Odin quietly spoke to himself. That guy managed to defeat 7 armed opponents without so much as moving an inch forward or back. The leader of Ragnarok stared at the individual, and into his cold blue eyes. Perhaps Loki was right for once, this guy may very well be fist material. As they continued to look at the scene in awe, Loki turned to them, his grin still present. So, are you convinced yet, or do you need more proof? The other fists turned their attention to Loki as he continued to chuckle at his little victory. Valkyrie, however, balled her hands to fists in absolute anger, as her body began to shake. No way in hell I'm gonna let this guy just waltz in here and take what I spent 2 years working for, she thought. She prepared to speak, but another voice beat her to the punch. If you don't like me, you can just say so. The 8th fist's head turned towards the mysterious recruit in response to his words. As she stared at him, he continued to speak while the other 7 watched their interaction. I can tell that despite this, none of you really wants to trust me, and I can't say I blame any of you for that. After all, I just waltzed in here and start trampling all over your rules and traditions. If you need more proof that I am capable of being one of the fists, just tell me what I have to do and I will do it. The 8 fists looked at him with a slight hint of respect since they could tell that every word out of his mouth was honest. He was really willing to prove himself even further just for them to trust him. Needless to say, that said something about his character that earned him a bit of respect from some of the fists. Loki, however, wasn't happy with this development. Damn it, this wasn't part of the plan. He may be good, but who's to say they won't make him do something extreme? My whole plan will be shot to hell. Sweat dripped down Loki's back as he awaited their decision. Finally, Odin turned to Naruto with an impassive look on his face. Very well, if you truly want to prove that you are worthy of being a fist, then I have just the task for you. Naruto simply looked back at Odin. Whatever it is, I will do it. Just say the word. Odin nodded to him as he continued. As you know, Ragnarok's main purpose is to become the most powerful gang in the entire city, and then all of Japan. Up to this point we haven't had much trouble with other rival gangs. However, that's different now. Roughly 6 miles east of here, near an abandoned part of the city, resides a gang called the Devil's Hand. Each fist turned to Odin, shock evident on their faces, but on none's more than on Loki's. The Devil's Hand. Is Odin insane? Those guys are the worst gang around here, even the cops are afraid of them. It was true though, the Devil's Hand members weren't as skilled fighters as the fists, but they made up for it with their sheer numbers and dangerous actions. Several members of the group were known for attacking police officers during the night, and had even burned down several buildings. The 8 fists could probably take them down, though they were hesitant at the idea. Odin had also strictly prohibited the group from approaching them without the other fists present. And now he was planning to send only one guy at them. Loki knew that no matter how skilled Naruto was, he wouldn't walk out of there alive. What I want you to do is to go to their hideout and force them to disband. If you can do this, I will gladly make you one of the deadly fists. Odin looked down to Naruto, waiting for the hooded teen's response, half expecting him to run away. However, he was shocked when Naruto slowly turned around and began to head in the direction he had indicated. Before he left the building, he turned his head slightly to the others. Don't worry, this shouldn't take long. He then disappeared into the darkness. Loki took the chance to turn to Odin, his grin gone and his anger evident. Are you out of your mind, Odin? You pretty much sent him on a suicide mission. What were you thinking? He continued to glare at his leader through his goggles. I have to agree with Loki, it's one thing if it were one of us, but we barely know anything about this boy. He could be killed, Freya said with a hint of worry in her voice. Odin, however, simply turned his back to them. Becoming a fist is not just some title we give to anyone, especially not some upstart who got lucky. I am doing this because I have a feeling that there is more to that boy than we saw. The first fist then continued to walk towards the exit. Where are you going, Odin? Thor asked, causing their leader to turn towards them. I am going to follow him and see the results. He slowly turned forward again and resumed his walk. The other fists exchanged looks between themselves before moving forward as well, eager to see what would become of their new recruit. None of them was prepared for what they would see. Scene change: Devi's hand hideout. If one were to look at this part of the city, they would quickly turn the other way. To describe it in words would not suffice, as the place was horrible to observe. Broken buildings with rooted ceilings, narrow alleyways and garbage littered across the ground. However, what people feared most were the individuals lurking within the hollow grounds. Near the center of the abandoned buildings was a large warehouse where lights were visible and some background sounds could be heard. The image of a skeletal hand in the center of a pentagram was painted on the front of it with the words Devil's Nest written below it. This was the image Naruto saw when he walked through the haggard area. He quickly reached the door and unleashed a powerful kick, knocking it in and causing electricity from old cables to spew out of the building. Upon taking a look inside, Naruto was confronted with the eyes of roughly 40 to 50 thugs that looked like they belonged in prison. Weapons could be seen everywhere, and the gang's symbol was painted on every wall. Naruto, however, was not deterred in the slightest as he entered the building. With each step he took, another member picked up a weapon which ranged from pipes to knives to even a few swords. He soon reached the center of the building and was surrounded on all sides. Well guys, look what we got here. Some punk decided to enter the devil's territory. What should we do with him? The leader exclaimed. Chants of words like kill or sacrifice echoed throughout the building. Naruto simply glared at the group of thugs. He slowly turned his head around, observing the group before facing the boss. I have been sent by Ragnarok. Either you disband your group quietly or I kick your asses and make you. All was silent for a moment before the entire gang burst into laughter. They were clearly not intimidated. So Ragnarok finally grew a pair and decided to try and take us down. Who would have thought? Shame they only sent one punk. We could have had some serious fun. All the members readied their weapons and prepared to attack. However, even if there is only one of you, we can't ignore a challenge. I hope you don't have any regrets, kid. All the members roared as they charged Naruto from all sides. However, Naruto didn't move but rather shifted his eyes to each side for a moment before sighing. I guess it's the hard way then. Time skip, half an hour later. The 8 fists stood in shock at the sight before them. The smashed-in gateway of the Devil's Nest made it obvious that their new recruit had gone through with the request. They had hoped to arrive in time to lend a hand. Once inside, though, they were met with an even more unbelievable sight. Over 50 individuals were laid out on the floor, weapons scattered all around them and every member bruised and bleeding. In the center stood Naruto, and he looked like he didn't even have as much as one scratch on him. Needless to say, they were convinced. Odin slowly approached Naruto, who turned to face him. Ragnarok's leader tensed slightly at the possibility of him lashing out but was instead met with a simple question. Do I pass? The purple-haired fighter didn't know how to react at first, though he managed to compose himself quickly as he spoke. Yes, you pass. You can now call yourself one of the deadly fists of Ragnarok, and as such you will replace Valkyrie as the 8th fist. Before Valkyrie could even begin to argue, Naruto looked back at Odin. If it's all the same with you, she can keep her title. I don't feel like taking it from her. Both Valkyrie and Odin were surprised by his answer. What title do you want then? He responded without hesitation. If it's all right with you, you can just call me the 9th fist of Ragnarok. If you wonder why, well, let's just say I have a special connection to that number. The others paused for a moment before nodding their heads in agreement. Before you can be properly inducted, you will need a code name to go with your rank, preferable one associated with the Norse mythology. Surprisingly, Loki was the one who spoke out. That's already been decided. His code name will be Fenrir. Odin paused as he thought it over. Fenrir, huh? Well, it definitely fits. Each fist nodded in agreement as they looked at their newest member. Gone was Naruto Uzumaki. From this moment on there stood only Fenrir, the 9th fist of Ragnarok. Dreamscape. Explosions. Naruto's mind spun and crashed against itself as he was thrown by the impact of the unexpected explosion. Noises and sounds were distorted. his ears booming and his head was throbbing as he tried to raise his head. He could barely make out the dust clouds that surrounded that area around him. Slowly he regained the feeling in his ears as he slowly turned his head around. At first all he could see were the clouds of dust, but slowly he could see shapes moving through the dust. Sounds and voices could be heard as well, though nothing coherent. The blonde ninja geared to stand and run, only for another sound to reach his ears. Naruto turned and found the shadow of a figure towering over him. Limbs still too shook up, he couldn't move and could only lie helpless as the figure closed in. He reached out his hand and slowly inched closer to Naruto. Naruto could feel the heat coming from his hands and prepared for the worst when... Dream end. Breathing heavy. Naruto sat up, sweat dripping down his forehead and face, as his blue eyes darted around the room. Once it was clear and the room was empty, he slowly eased his breathing. That dream again. Why can't I remember anything? Naruto spoke to himself before placing his left hand to his forehead to wipe away the sweat. He slowly rose from his bed. Before he had a chance to think further on his dream, the sound of pounding diverted his attention. Finally awake? Good, what happened? You look like crap. Naruto turned to the doorway. Standing in it was a young teenage boy roughly 16 years old. He was what many would consider a pretty boy with a relatively attractive face, light purple eyes and short light blonde hair. His facial expression was rather cold and somewhat cruel, reminiscent of someone Naruto knew from the past. His name was Natsu Tanimoto, better known as Ragnarok's Sixth Fist Hermit and Naruto's roommate/landlord. Naruto lightly glared at his new comrade's remark before lightly stretching himself out. Thanks for the compliment. Any other cracks you want to make? Naruto slowly approached his closet where his clothes were stored. Even with his back turned, Naruto could feel Natsu's eyes glaring into his back. He made his dislike of the current living situation known last night when the two were stuck with each other. Flashback, an hour after the Devil's Hand incident. The newly christened 9 Deadly Fists of Ragnarok were currently in a bit of a bind that their martial arts skills couldn't bail them out of. Alright, now which one of you will be taking Fenrir since he doesn't have a place to say? Odin looked at the 8 other fists, his arms crossed in annoyance at their inability to come to a decision. Valkyrie stared back at their leader. Why doesn't Loki take him in? He's his pet after all. Her eyes slowly drifted to Loki, who was wearing his ever-present grin with his arms crossed. Sorry Valkyrie, but where I live is classified information, and if I told anyone I would have to kill them. That remark earned him a kick to the skull from the angry Red, who was now comically stomping on his head with steam coming out of her ears. Don't feed us that spy bullshit. You brought this guy here so he should live with you. Once she felt like she had given him enough punishment, she stepped back from the now slightly battered 4th fist. Loki quickly recovered, however, and lightly dusted himself off. Look, Valkyrie. My place isn't exactly what you would call livable by normal standards, and to be honest, I don't like sharing. Besides, there are 7 other people. You expect me to believe not one of them can make room? Thor responded first. Sorry, but I still live with my parents, and they don't usually let me have friends over. Siegfried was next, though his attention seemed more focused on a song he was writing. While I would enjoy the idea of learning more about our new comrade, my home is full at the moment. The last part he said in a somewhat saddened tone. Freya and Berserker both, rather than responding, simply looked at Loki with an expression that read, no way and don't ask why. Loki quickly turned and pointed toward the only fist yet to refuse. Fine, what about Hermit? We all know he lives alone and no one would complain if he suddenly got a new tenant. Rai. Loki's words were silenced by an ominous aura being emitted from said hooded individual. Though his face wasn't visible, Loki could feel the cold eyes of Hermit burning into him. Listen, Loki. I don't share my house with anyone, and unless you have a death wish, you'll drop that thought from your mind. Loki, however, was far from intimidated and opened his mouth to retort, but was quickly drowned out by Odin. Actually, I think that would be a good idea, considering Hermit has the most open space of all of us. Hermit snapped his head so fast to Odin one wondered how it didn't snap off. And no way in hell am I gonna share my house with anyone, period. He continued to glare at their leader through his hood, but his anger was quickly silenced under Odin's gaze. Listen, Hermit, I know you prefer to live alone, and I don't have a problem with that. However, as it stands, you are the only one who has any space for Fenrir to stay in. Thus, regardless of whether you like it or not, he is staying with you. With that last thought, Odin raised his hand to adjust his glasses, his way of saying my decision stands. Thus Hermit's shoulders dropped in defeat, though his anger was still present as he proceeded to walk towards the exit before turning to Fenrir, who had been standing in the same spot for the whole conversation. Hermit Light jerked his head to the exit, indicating for him to follow. Fenrir followed without question, and thus followed his new comrade to what would be his new residence. End of flashback. Thus Naruto/Fenrir had taken up to living at Hermit's place. He quickly was told the ground rules after Hermit revealed his normal, everyday identity as Natsu Tanimoto. Namely, the rules were simple: stay away from him, and don't talk to him unless it was important. It kinda of reminded Naruto of Sasuke from the Genin days. Once Naruto was garbed in a pair of black jeans, blue and black sneakers, a white jacket, and his wolf-marked t-shirt, he exited his room and made his way down the stairs. He quickly arrived in the kitchen and caught sight of Natsu shoving so of the typical unhealthy crap he called breakfast. Another thing Naruto learned about his roommate was he held little account for taste and would eat just about anything. Thankfully, Naruto had enough sense to buy some food for himself. He quickly reached out, got some cereal and milk, poured into a bowl, and sat at the chair opposite Natsu. The two sat in silence for a time, and it began to tear on Naruto's nerves. All this antisocial quiet wasn't what he signed up for. Thankfully, Natsu finished quickly and proceeded to grab his school bag. Naruto turned to him with a half-awake glance. Heading to school for another fun-filled day of fake smiles, bad-mouthing others, and generally being a closet emo with 9-foot stick up your ass? The bluntness of his tone only added to the remark. A pot that had been resting on the table near the door flew at his head, which Naruto quickly stopped with his left leg before pushing it up into the air, catching it and setting down. The door slammed shut as Naruto's eyes closed in slight boredom. Have a nice day too. Time skip afternoon. Naruto was currently sitting outside and enjoying the sun as he looked toward the setting sun. His day up to this point had been pretty uneventful, with Natsu not being around to mess with. So he pretty much walked around the neighborhood for a time, read some of the books in the house, and finally got on the roof to watch the sun. As he stared at the sun, it reminded him of the time he was on Soul's boat. Wonder what Soul Sensei is up to? Knowing him, probably dancing or playing his music. Naruto's thoughts were quickly interrupted when he sensed someone approaching. However, he didn't need to look to know who it was. Naruto sighed. Hermit, you're actually home before nightfall and all dressed up, I see. What's the occasion? Hermit didn't respond at first, nor did he even twitch at Naruto's attempted humor. He only raised his hand, pointing in the direction of a small bridge over the river. Apparently the Shinpaku Alliance is gonna be heading past there. They're getting too full of themselves and we've been ordered to knock them down a notch. That got Naruto's attention. He had heard Hermit and the others mention the Shinpaku Alliance. Though from what Naruto heard, the only really dangerous member was a guy named Kenichi Shirahama. Naruto turned to Hermit. So this just a threat-dealing mission, or do we go straight for the kill? Hermit again didn't respond, only turned his back to head down the stairs. Naruto took that as his cue and went to change into his Fenrir outfit. Once all was said and done, the two headed out to unleash some serious hell to an unfortunate group of fools. Scene change, the bridge. As the sun set around the neighborhood, the sound of rushing water and wind blowing could be heard. Rather, that would be true if it weren't being drowned out by an obnoxious laughing. Ah ha 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 ha. Take a look, everyone. Make way for the Shinpaku Alliance. The voice boomed across the way. The sounds could be traced to a boy, if you could call him that, of about 15. He was dressed in a simple white collared shirt, jeans, and white shoes. His face, however, was oddly narrow, his ears pointed, slanted eyes with a maniacal grin on his face, and a dark green bowl cut. All in all, he looked like a Class A freak. Said freak was known as Haruo Naijima, self-proclaimed best friend of Kenichi Shirahama and founder of the Shinpaku Alliance. Once the group had been established, the pointy-eared demon boy had been flaunting their power all over the city. At his back were 4 other members, one of whom was carrying a flag with the words Shinpaku Alliance in kanji. Naijima continued onward, nearing the bridge with a smug grin. Now that the alliance has been formed, those fools in Ragnarok won't dare mess with us, he thought. He quickly broke out into another sinister laugh. only to lose his voice at the sight by bridge. Oh crap! At the other end of the bridge were two hooded individuals, one of whom Naijima immediately recognized. Oh great, it's the sixth fist of Ragnarok Hermit, but who's the other guy? The two parties stared silently at each other for a few moments before one of Shinpaku walked forward. Hey, don't you block our way, we're with the Shinpaku Alliance, so you guys don't scare us. He quickly readied back his fist and charged the two. Before he even had a chance to strike, Hermit quickly pushed his left leg out, throwing him off balance before grabbing him and throwing him off the bridge. The remaining members watched their comrade fall to the water's bellow. Hermit quickly turned his attention to them before pointing finger towards them. I am only gonna ask you this one time, where is Kenichi Shirahama? His tone was cold and serious, showing he wasn't playing around. Naijima started to sweat at the threat, but more so at the other individual. Whoever that other guy is, he can't be good news for us. Better think of something quick. The so-called demon boy's eyes quickly drifted around, thinking of what he could do. His eyes drifted towards the unconscious team member now sinking at the bottom of the river. He was contemplating tricking Hermit and jumping in, saving the member from drowning and fleeing to the sewers. If you are thinking of a way to escape, don't bother, you aren't going anywhere till you answer us. A cold tone echoed nearby. Naijima froze as he felt a presence behind him. He slowly turned around to find second individual standing behind him. How the hell did he get behind me? The Shinpaku commander was paralyzed as he stared at the hooded individual, unable to form a coherent thought. Just as he was about to make a break for the river, the flag bearer of the group charged. Get away from our commander, you scum! He reeled back the flag, intending to strike the enemy. Snap! Smash! Splash! Needless to say, Naijima was beyond awestruck at the stranger. With his back turned, the stranger delivered a powerful spinning back kick, snapping the flag in half. The bearer, shocked, lost his balance, and could not block the second spin kick to his face, sending him into the water below. The remaining members of the Shinpaku stared briefly at the attacker, who only glared at them with his cold blue eyes. Leave now! The tone of his voice just screamed pain and death, causing the group to run with their tails between their legs. The stranger then turned his attention back to Naijima, who was now shaking and dripping with sweat. I will ask you only once and you better answer now, where is Kenichi Shirahama? Naijima panicked and quickly reached into his pants pocket before pulling out a small orb. Quickly throwing into the ground, it exploded, releasing a thick veil of black smoke. Neither Hermit nor Naruto could react, and only were able to make out the sound of a splash below. The two looked over the edge to see their targets swimming to the edge, companions in hand. Naruto quickly geared to jump in after them, however Hermit stopped him. He slowly placed his arms at his side. Our orders were simply to scare them, and I think they get the idea. Naruto looked back at Hermit and simply nodded. Truth was, he didn't feel like using his skills on such unskilled opponents. It didn't feel right to him. So he was grateful they didn't need to go further. With the sun setting, the two teens proceeded to head back home and await their next orders. However, Naruto had other thoughts on his mind. Wonder what this Kenichi guy is like. Must be pretty strong the way everyone talks about him, but still. Naruto mused over these thoughts for a time and finally decided on one thing. Tomorrow, I will find this Kenichi guy and see what he's made of. Next day, Naruto looked up at the sky as he ran across the rooftops of the buildings in the neighborhood. His current plan was to see if he could find Kenichi Shirahama and get a good measure of his skills. Natsu, aka Hermit, had left early and left a rather colorfully worded note. Apparently he would be in play for the drama club and be gone longer. Hermit's ability to change his persona from a cold-hearted bastard to a kind, pretty boy never stopped surprising Naruto. However, he wasn't going to dwell on it right now, as he was currently en route to Hermit's school to see if he could find Shirahama. That macho crap really pisses me off. A loud, violent, and strangely familiar voice quickly ran through the air, getting Naruto's attention. He quickly halted and searched for the source and was met with quite a surprise. Valkyrie? What the heck is she doing here? Below he could see the red-headed eighth fist looking especially angry. With a scream of rage she proceeded to charge towards someone Naruto didn't recognize. He was roughly 15 years old with short brown hair and brown eyes, wearing a white collared shirt and jeans. The only other noticeable thing was a small yin-yang badge attached to his collar. All in all, he looked like a pretty average guy. That brought up the question, why Valkyrie was wailing on him. Naruto just sat there and watched his enraged comrade unleash a barrage of vicious kicks to the boy's body. Each kick made contact and obviously looked painful, yet strangely the teen simply raised his arms to block. What the hell is the matter with this guy? Yeah, Valkyrie's a great fighter, but he could at least try to fight back. With each kick landed the eighth fist's anger became more intense, and so did her attacks. Why won't this idiot fight back? Is he really going to just stand there and do nothing just cause I'm a girl? Valkyrie seethed mentally. With that thought, she leapt into the air and spun, before unleashing a powerful roundhouse kick. The force behind it was so intense she actually managed to push him back a few feet. Yet he still stood, arms crossed in front of his face. Kizara continued to glare at his unwillingness to fight. So what, are seriously just going to let me pummel you into the ground just cause I'm a girl? That got Naruto's attention. What? They can't be serious? However, Naruto's skepticism was put to rest as the unnamed individual lowered his arms to face Kizara. Yes, no matter what, I swore to myself I would never hit a girl no matter what. That was all Naruto needed to hear. Kizara's POV. This damn idiot, he's just like everyone else. Her mind flashed back to her time before Ragnarok when she was part of her school's taekwondo club. She dedicated herself to training and worked harder than anyone. Yet the memory of that one match still echoed in her mind. The words her defeated opponent repeated in like a broken record. Of course I held back. You think I would actually lose to a girl? Ever since then she vowed to become strong enough to show a girl can win against a man without handicaps. Yet here this guy was doing the very thing she hated most. It infuriated her to no end, like he was mocking her dreams and goal. However, before she even had a chance to move, she felt a hand on her shoulder. I think that's enough, Valkyrie. You really should think about this before charging in. Kizara's eyes quickly darted to her left side and were met with the hooded visage of Fenrir. All the anger she felt suddenly was replaced with confusion and curiosity. Meanwhile, her opponent was simply confused. However, she quickly changed her demeanor back to angry as she slapped Fenrir's hand away, before pointing her finger at him. Just what the hell are you doing here? I don't remember asking you to show up and tell me how to fight, pal. She glared at him with her green eyes filled with slight anger, though he wasn't intimidated. Instead, he walked forward till he was a few feet ahead of her. He then turned his head slightly to Kizara. I saw you were having some trouble and thought you could use a hand. While his tone only contained sincerity, it didn't get the desired effect. Kizara was beyond angry and started unleashing kicks on Fenrir instead. However, he easily dodged them, while remaining stationary. Each kick became more reckless and violent as her anger grew. What deal you think just cause I'm a girl I need your stinking charity? Well, screw you, pal. She then unleashed a powerful axe kick. However, Fenrir spun to the left, dodging it before getting behind Kizara. With great speed he locked both arms behind her back and stopped her legs with his own. This only furthered her anger as she began to trash and squirm like a caged beast. Despite the struggle, Fenrir held firm. This caused the trapped Kizara to start scream obscenities left and right. She would have continued had Fenrir not released one of his hands to clamp it over her mouth. Before she even had time to react, he spoke in a calm voice. Just listen to me, Valkyrie, for a second. Despite the fact she didn't enjoy being grabbed, something about the way he spoke had a sort of calming effect on her. Thus she stopped trashing and struggling. Fenrir paused. Now I will let you go, so just let me say what I have to, okay? Though she was still tense and a bit angry, Kizara nodded her head. Thus the hooded fist released her. Kizara turned to him and awaited his explanation. He slowly met with her gaze and began. Listen, I didn't come here to help you because I thought you couldn't take him. Naruto jabbed his thumb towards the boy on the floor. Nor did it have anything to do with the fact you are a girl. That's not the reason. The redhead actually gained a slightly shocked expression on her face but kept her composure. Crossing her arms and adopting a serious expression, she looked at him. Well then, why exactly did you want to help me? We're comrades, why else? He spoke with serious yet kind tone. Kizara's serious face dropped like lead at his words. Now she bore a face of shock and confusion instead. Why? She barely managed to get out. In truth, despite all her time in Ragnarok, she had never once heard the members refer to themselves as comrades, or even friends. So to hear it coming from this guy, she couldn't find the right words for it. Fenrir, however, simply turned to face the teen his proclaimed comrade had been pummeling. He stared at him and spoke with the utmost seriousness. All right, who are you and why are you standing in my friend's way? The stranger quickly shook himself out of his daze and spoke somewhat hesitantly. I'm Kenichi Shirahama, and who are you exactly? Naruto stood there briefly before. Did you say your name was Kenichi Shirahama? The now identified Kenichi slowly nodded his head in response. Almost instantly Naruto began to chuckle to the point where his body was shaking. That managed to freak out the two standing individuals. Kizara, who had quickly forgotten her previous shock, slowly reached her hand towards her now seemingly insane friend. You alright? Naruto quickly stopped his somewhat disturbing chuckling and stopped shaking before turning to Kizara. He put his hand behind his head as he looked at her. Sorry about that. I spent a good portion of the day looking for this guy, and now here he is. With those words spoken, he lowered his hands and turned to Kenichi. Sorry for the interruption, I needed to get that off my chest. Before we get any further, I believe you asked me for my name? Once again Kenichi nodded in response. Naruto slowly raised his right hand and turned the back to face Kenichi. This displayed a black glove similar to Kizara's, the only difference being it held the Roman numeral for 9 instead of 8. I am the 9th deadly fist of Ragnarok, Fenrir. A small amount of pride could be heard in his voice. However, Kenichi was more shocked than anything else. Great, just what I need, another one of the fists to deal with. Wait, did he say 9th fist? Kenichi looked at the glove and saw that it did in fact have the symbol for 9, though he was still confused. Not to complain or anything, but I thought there were only 8 fists of Ragnarok, not 9. Now introduced Fenrir lightly chuckled at the response. You would be right. However, I am new to the group and so you probably haven't heard of me, but I know a bit about you. Mainly you have been causing Ragnarok a lot of grief in the past, something I intend to rectify. Naruto slowly walked toward Kenichi, cracking his neck and knuckles as he moved. He looked towards his opponent expecting him to be ready to fight. Huh! In place of Kenichi was a dust cloud, which could be seen going in the opposite direction. All the while Naruto could have sworn he heard the words, strategic withdrawal? Silence. Naruto simply stood there unable to grasp what exactly just happened. He slowly turned his head to Kizara. Did he just run away? Not sure how else to answer, she simply replied. Yeah, he booked while you were engrossed in your little speech. Once again all was silent. Naruto for a moment didn't even breath, almost like he was frozen in place. However, the moment lasted briefly and his confusion was replaced with what could be called humorous anger. That lousy son of a bitch, where does he think he is going? I spent all day looking for his sorry ass, and when I finally find him he runs away. Damn it! Forgetting everything else, Naruto turned in the direction Kenichi ran and bolted after him, leaving Kizara in the dust. She stood there briefly before turning around and proceeding to walk away. However, she stopped and turned towards where Fenrir had been. If one looked, a small smile appeared on her face before she turned. That Fenrir guy might not be such a jerk after all. Scene change, later afternoon. After running for more than 2 hours, Naruto still hadn't managed to find his fleeing target, which wasn't doing much for his anger. Seeing the setting sun managed to calm him down as he started to head back home. The hooded ninja slowly approached the highway road that led to his house when a strange wind blew past him. What the hell? He quickly turned and barely managed to catch a glimpse of 2 very unusual men. What really struck him was what the 2 were doing. In the middle of the road, hopping from one car to another, was a middle-aged man, who surprisingly was about the same height as he was when Naruto was a genin. He was clad in a light gray Chinese coat, black pants, and Chinese shoes. On his head was a black bowl hat that covered most of his brown hair. The only other characteristic Naruto could spot was the rather large brown mustache on his face. The second man, however, was even stranger. He almost 7 feet tall, wearing an open brown jacket showing of his extremely muscled body. Besides that, he also wore a pair of jeans and black shoes. The man had short blue hair with a cowlick and a long narrow scar running across his nose. What made this man unbelievable was the fact he was currently running close to 50 miles an hour. Had Naruto been a normal person, this would have shocked him, but he was far from normal. One thing he could tell about the two was obvious: those two must be martial arts masters. However, Naruto quickly turned his attention to what the two were heading towards and saw something rather surprising. You have got to be kidding me. Not too far ahead of the two, Master Naruto could make out a large bus with what appeared to be two people fighting on top. Upon closer inspection, Naruto was able to see they were in fact Kenichi, Shirahama, and Hermit. Naruto sighed in annoyance as he quickly jumped into the road and hopped from one car to another before reaching the other side. Once done, he quickly hopped to the top of the wall and ran in the direction of the bus at top speed. All the while he kept his eyes focused on the two combatants. Just hope those two idiots don't do anything stupid before I get there. Hermit's POV. Hermit was currently unleashing the full fury of his hatred onto Kenichi Shirahama. He held nothing back and seemed to be aiming to kill. Yet no matter where he struck him, the guy just refused to stay down. What is with this guy? How many times do I have to hit him before he stays down for good? Hermit quickly regained his focus in time to dodge another punch from his opponent before retaliating with another knife strike. Once again made contact, but he still stood. Enough of this, I am ending you right now. Die, Shirahama! He launched his knife hand for Kenichi's throat, determined to kill him. However, Kenichi got quickly in front of his between his arms to deliver a left open hand uppercut to Hermit's chin. There wasn't nearly enough force to do any damage, but Hermit quickly found himself wedged in place. Angrier than ever at his opponent's unwillingness to admit defeat, Hermit geared up to finish him. His eyes though quickly drift to Kenichi's to see Kenichi move his right hand and place his palm under his left elbow. What's he doing? Hermit quickly reverted his eyes to his intended victim to see his face full of confidence as he shouted, "Take this, Master Kensei's secret technique." Using his right hand, Kenichi was able to push his left arm forward with enough force to send him and Hermit flying off the bus. Naruto's POV. Naruto had watched the whole thing and knew what was about to happen. He quickly picked up speed to catch the bus. This is gonna be close. Once Naruto was close enough, he quickly dropped off the wall before putting his legs onto the wall and pushing off. With incredible speed, the blonde ninja rocketed towards Hermit. The instant he was close enough, he grabbed the sixth fist by the back of his coat and flung he with all his strength onto the bus. Once he was on, Naruto flipped in the air and used the momentum to land of the top of the bus before pushing himself off towards Kenichi. Like with Hermit, he quickly grabbed the now panicking fighter the front of his shirt and hurled him back onto the bus as well. With the road approaching quickly, Naruto thought fast and flipped forward, managing to land his feet onto a passing car before pushing off. With almost inhuman agility, he landed on another 3 cars' roofs before leaping back onto the bus. Needless to say, all those watching, even the masters, were impressed with his little show. Now, however, Naruto turned his attention to Kenichi and Hermit. One would have expected the two to be grateful for the assist, but Hermit was far from it as he approached Naruto. The angry Kenpo user grabbed his house guest by the nape of his shirt and glared at him with inhuman anger. What the hell, Fenrir? I didn't ask you to interfere. This has nothing to do with you, so be you. That was all Hermit managed to get out before he felt the wind leave his body. Looking down, he found Fenrir's left knee planted deeply into his abdomen. He quickly released his grip before kneeling over painfully and coughing, trying to get his oxygen back. While Hermit was hacking, Naruto turned his attention to Kenichi, who was now looking quite shocked. Though his shock turned to slight anger as he pointed accusingly to the hooded ninja. What was that for? You guys are both a part of Ragnarok. Why are you attacking him? Naruto turned to the coughing Hermit before turning to Kenichi. He wasn't thinking straight, and it was the only way I could think of to calm him down. Kenichi was more confused than ever but listened as Naruto continued. While I know for a fact Hermit probably could have saved himself from that fall, I can't exactly ignore him falling, nor ignore him when he is doing something stupid. That remark earned him a weak glare from Hermit, though he still couldn't muster out an insult. Hermit was letting his anger get the better of him and getting sloppy in his fight. If he had continued, it would have dragged out longer than necessary, and if I hadn't interfered I have no doubt those two following us would have. Kenichi quickly turned to see both his karate and kenpo masters following the bus with ease. Rather, Kensei was riding a car and Sakaki was running after them. Now then, Kenichi Shirahama. Kenichi quickly turned to Fenrir, who looked ready to fight. I believe you, and I have some unfinished business to settle, and you won't be running away from me this time. Kenichi quickly panicked and raised both arms in defense. Look, I don't want to fight you. I don't even have a reason. So can we please just get off this bus? The response Kenichi got was a hard kick to the face, causing him to roll to the edge of the bus. He quickly jumped to his feet and prepared to retort when he was stopped by an unbearably cold voice. Pathetic. Kenichi stood paralyzed by the sudden coldness in Fenrir's tone. Looking at him, Kenichi could actually feel the cold anger just by looking at his eyes. Fenrir just stood there, still holding that cold, harsh glare at Kenichi. Don't have a reason to fight? You think just because you can't think of a good reason for us to fight you can just give up? Kenichi didn't know how to respond as Fenrir slowly began to move. However, instead of moving forward, he began swinging his arms side to side while placing one of his legs forward in a lunging position, moving his legs side to side with his arms. Fenrir then spoke, Jinga. Before Kenichi even had time to react, Fenrir was right in front of him, still moving. Kenichi quickly unleashed a roundhouse kick, only for Fenrir to duck down under the kick, putting his back leg straight, while bending his front and balancing himself with one arm on the ground. Before Kenichi could react, Fenrir quickly raised himself with a quick spin and delivering a powerful circular kick to Kenichi's face. Armada, he once again spoke. Kenichi was dazed and unable to get his balance, something Fenrir took quick advantage of. He quickly leapt forward, spun sideways in the air, and smashed his left shin into Kenichi's face while still in the air. While Fenrir landed on his feet, Kenichi spun twice in the air before landing hard on his face. Fenrir had his back to his downed opponent and slowly spoke, Martello Radadu. Kenichi could barely move and struggled to get up. He was already banged up from Kazara and Hermit, but the force behind each of Fenrir's attack was on a whole different level. Added to the impact of the fall, and he was down. Fenrir, however, looked at his struggling opponent and slowly walked towards him. Said fist took note of the increasingly dangerous aura emanating from the masters below. Once he was in front of Kenichi, Fenrir lowered his hand and grabbed Kenichi by his collar. He then proceeded to lift the now battered and bruised disciple up with one arm. Walking towards the edge of the bus, he could hear Kenichi's grunts of pain. Once he reached the edge, the fist raised his defeated opponent till he was at eye level with him. Looked at his face, he could see Kenichi was drifting between conscious and unconscious. Thus, with quick movement, he buried his free hand into Kenichi's abdomen. Said Fight gasped for breath as he felt his ribs crack under the pressure of the blow. The pain had, however, woken him up enough to meet Fenrir's gaze, where brown eyes met blue. Fenrir then spoke once again in that cold tone that sent chills down Kenichi's spine. You want to know the reason I fight you? It's simple. I am a member of Ragnarok and you hurt and humiliated my comrades. That's all the reason I need. Kenichi was barely able to make out his words as the pain was becoming greater, but still managed to keep himself focused to hear. Fenrir looked back at him and prepared to make his message clear. Keep this in mind, Kenichi Shirahama. There is no way I will let you shame my teammates' names with your cowardly attitude or harm them at all. Unless you have the guts to stand and fight, stay out of our way, or next time you won't walk away. With those words, he tossed the battered boy off the bus, though thankfully into the arms of his masters. Even as the bus moved away from them, Naruto could feel their anger still present but wasn't bothered. He then turned to Hermit, who had at that point been watching the whole time. Needless to say, he didn't really know how to respond to what he just saw. In a matter of minutes, he witnessed Fenrir demolish Kenichi Shirahama and swear to more or less fight for the fists simply because they were teammates. The air was rather tense, however Fenrir quickly dropped it with a simple comment. So Hermit, is this bus heading near home cause it's getting pretty late? At that point Hermit lost his composure and face faltered. Having such a silly question asked after such a serious fight, he didn't know whether to be confused, annoyed or pissed off. Though he felt a small smirk appear on his face. Maybe having this guy around won't be as big a pain in the ass as I thought. 9th Fist End. Well, there you have it. the latest chapter of the Ninth Fist. If I made Kizara and Hermit to Oosi sorry, but that's how I wanted them to be, more or less. The main idea is how Naruto starts to make the fist ease up and start to act more like friends as opposed to hating each other. For those of you who think Naruto is too strong, once again remember Naruto has had intense ninja training since he was like 6 and the insane martial arts training of a master. Put that against Kenichi's maybe a month's worth of training. At this point the outcome is obvious. Also, those bolded words are actual Kapiria moves. Here are some elaborations. Moves list. Jinga, most basic of Kapiria moves. The legs begin in a lunging position, one leg in front of the other. The back leg is brought even with the front leg, and then the other leg steps backward. Armada, a spinning back kick where you strike the enemy with the outside edge of the foot. You use the momentum to spin and swing your leg. Martello Ratadu, a spinning roundhouse kick in the air where you strike your enemy with your foot fully extended. For more info, check out videos on YouTube or look up information online. Now, before I sign off, I thought of a brief omake. This is my first try, so bear with me. Special omake. Title: Other Landlord. Loki looked at Naruto to talk with him about his living arrangements. All right, Fenrir. I have gotten Freya to agree to letting you stay with her for now, alright? Naruto nodded. Anything specific I should know about her? Loki only shook his head with his smile still present. Nothing important. Well, hope everything works out. With that, Loki waved goodbye and left Naruto to Freya. Freya's place. Naruto was led to a small but comfortable bedroom for himself. This will be your room for now. Feel free to unpack. I'll come check on you later. Freya then exited the room. Once she was gone, Naruto briefly looked around before heading to the drawers and placing in his clothing. After about an hour, everything was set and Naruto was all settled in. Fenrir, you done unpacking yet? Freya's voice came from the doorway. Naruto quickly turned to her. Yeah, everything's finished. Naruto was quickly blown to the wall by a massive nosebleed courtesy of Freya, who was currently wearing no top or bra at all. Thus it gave Naruto a full view of her assets. Just to point out, this is actually true. Freya Real does sleep without a top. Read the manga if you don't believe me. Scene change. Loki for some reason looked to Sky and wonder. I get the feeling I should have told Fenrir that Freya likes to sleep without wearing a top. Although it's probably not a big deal.